atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, to anoint the most holy. No one understands this from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes. There will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be cut off and will have nothing. The people of the ruler will come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put it in the sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of the temple, he will set up an abomination of causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. Who understands what just was read? Totally understandable. 99.9% of all Christians would have no idea what I just read. 80 to 90% of most pastors really couldn't tell you what that was. It's not that it is a little bit deep, but it has to be researched. It has to be exegeted. These 4 verses, which is deep, they're some of the most important verses in the entire Bible. Camille, what are you understanding about the 77s?
That's 49 years.
That's one of them. She said 40.
7 to 7 is the 49 years. It's at least about the 49 years of
Go ahead, Mike. 7.
The 77s and some versions say weeks instead. So they say 70 weeks instead of 77s. And weeks or the days, or it's not weeks. It's not 70 weeks. It's a day per year.
Correct. So let me break this down. It seems deep, and to a certain extent it is, but we're going to, yes, ma'am, Rhonda.
Is it 490 years or something like that, or are they saying?
Altogether, yes. It's a 490-year prophecy. And so we're going to break this down because it's very, very deep. So 77s actually is, there's 77-year periods. So you got 1 year, 7, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what was that, 5, 6, 7. That would be 1 7. And then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Imagine that 70 times. And so there was so that's what they were saying. But then to break it down easier, it may still seem confusing. 70 times 7 equals 490. Now it's broken down into 3 different periods. 62 times 7 equals 434. I messed up. 7 times 7. When you see 7 sevens, and by the time we get to 730, you should be all right. 7 times 7 equals 49. 62 times 7 equals 434. 1 times 7 equals 7. If you add all of those numbers up, you'll get 490. Now, stay with me. So, Daniel is in Babylon at this time. So I'm always trying to use Bible to also show you regular history. And so there were 3 deportations. A deportation is when the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, went to Jerusalem and took them away. And so over a period of from 606 to about 586, 20 years, most of Jerusalem had been taking slaves. So in the first one in 606 BC, just some numbers, Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon go and attack Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a city with wooden gates around there. They burnt the gates down, and they took Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. They took some of the nobles, young. It's almost like, the best way I can explain it is they came to America and then took some of the best from Harvard and Yale and so on. So these were the very educated ones. Then about 10 years later, they came back, took the king Jehoiakim, his wife, and about 10,000 people. 10 years later, they came back and took about another 20,000 people. They took about 40, 50,000 people altogether. That's what they did for us in America. They went to Africa and grabbed about 5,000. It took them, and they lost about 3,000 from the Middle Passage, brought 2,000 to America. Went back to Africa, got some more. And that's what they did over about a period of 70 years to get us here. So it's that same type of mindset that was occurring. Now, God ends up giving Daniel the ability to dream, to interpret dreams. Who else could interpret dreams in the Old Covenant? Joseph. And Joseph is deep. Remember when Pharaoh had a dream that no one could interpret? Joseph interprets it. And what does Pharaoh do for Joseph? Excellent. Similar thing happened with Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream that nobody could interpret. None of the astrologers, magicians, sorcerers. Daniel was able to interpret it. He raises him up. So Daniel's in a high position, but he's still basically a slave. And he begins to have dreams and visions. God gives him this dream and vision and gave a word, Daniel 9:24. It is powerful. I'm going to break it down now for us. So I think that's what you'll need notes. By the time we get done, hopefully you know this. So let's look at verse 24. 77s are decreed for your people. We now know what the 77s are. 490 years. Yes, ma'am.
My book, it says 70 weeks.
Correct.
70 weeks have been decreed for your people in your holy city.
But you should know that's incorrect because even your assignment said that.
Right. So I just wanted to know.
Correct. That's a good point.
Weeks was supposed to be a unit of time, right?
Right. No, they didn't know what that 70 were. They said the 77. So some said, you got to remember, good point. What are the sevens? Some said they're weeks. So it would be 70 separate weeks. Some said they're days. It would be 70 separate days. Some said they're months. It would be 70 separate months. Others said they're years. It would be 77 years. How do we know which is what? Is it 70 days? 70 months would be 70 times 12. 70 weeks would be 70 times 52, or 70 years. The reason we were able to figure out that he was speaking years is the anointed one, Jesus. And so you stay with me. When we get to I'll get to that. I'm fast forwarding it. We now know that that prophecy couldn't have been fulfilled if it was just weeks, because it would have been just too short a period of time. It couldn't have been fulfilled if it was just days or months. It had to be years. But I will show you this when it's down there. So I'm already letting you know it's years. But it's okay. Like I said, Camille's Bible, other ones may, and it's going to, remember what they're saying is the editors or people are saying maybe it was weeks and months, but it's been proven to be years. So it says are decreed for your people. 77s are decreed for your people. Decreed means an order to decide or ordain something through a legal authoritative command. No bit. When people say I decree and declare, it's an order. It's a law that has been made. So this law is in effect. So God says to Daniel, 77s, which is going to be broken down into three different thingies. One is going to be 7 sevens, 49, 62 sevens, 434, 1 7. This was decreed. The reason we know this couldn't have been weeks is because look what it says has to occur. Your holy city to finish transgression, put an end to sin. Sin hasn't even put an end to yet. To atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, all of these things. So then verse 25 gets even more specific. No one understand this. From the issuing of the decree to rebuild and to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. So look what it goes on to say. Here's how we know it's more time. No one understand this. From the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one comes, the ruler comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. So watch. Think about how we know it can't be weeks. Jerusalem gets destroyed between 606 and 586. The Jerusalem is destroyed.
It's not rebuilt.
And it's not rebuilt until when? Did you know? Okay, excellent. So the decree, the law that said they could rebuild. So you got to understand historically, it's like, let me see what I can say. Let me see. It's well, shoot. Ron have been around Homewood long enough. There are places in Homewood that got messed up in the riots in '68, and they haven't been rebuilt yet. Then there are other places in Homewood that have been rebuilt. Does that make sense? So when Jerusalem gets destroyed, it doesn't get rebuilt until around 445 BC. And that's way past if it would have been 7 weeks or 7 months. It had to be the years, but we'll get to that in a minute. So it says, and I know it's a little bit deep right now. That's okay. It says, no one understand this, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. Turn in your book now to Nehemiah chapter 1. The issuing, here is the key, the issuing of the decree of the law. And you see it in Pittsburgh all the time. That's why I try to make it understandable to you. The Lorimer School was sat unused for what, 30 to 40 years. Under the Gainey administration, well, actually under Peduto first, then the Gainey administration, a decree was issued to rebuild that school. And now you go past there and that school has been rebuilt and you got apartments and everything on there. Who remember when Lorimer didn't have that stuff down there? You remember that just 10 years ago, none of that was down there. Judge Cooper's office was over here in Homewood 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Judge Cooper's office is now over there, totally brand new building. Why? Because a decree was released and the city see it and you already see it. You can rebuild. I went to Rosenstein. Who remembers Rosenstein? Who remembers Nabisco? Thank you. A decree was used by the city of Pittsburgh, gave Walnut Capital. They literally gave them through zoning and everything else. So when you see Bakery Square, that's why I don't want you to get like, oh, deep decrees, this and that. The mayor of Pittsburgh, in addition with these people, said you can build Bakery Square. They gave them permission. Bakery Square could not have done that. The mayor had to sign off. The URA had to sign off. City council had to sign off. The zoning people had to sign off. The permit people had to sign off. They had to do all of those things to knock down Rosenstein. They had to get a decree. So Jerusalem has been destroyed. Now they want to rebuild it. Go to Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 1. By the time we get done, maybe not just today, but next week, because it says the words of Nehemiah, because we need Ezra and Nehemiah to help us understand Daniel, which will then help us understand Matthew. The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, in the month of Kislev. Kislev, anybody know what month that is? The Bible may say it. What is Kislev? Ron. What is it? It says 12th year. Excellent. Well, there's actually would be our 12th year. I mean, it would be our 12th month. The Kislev is November, December. Jewish months are a little bit different. So they go from like November 15th to December 15th is a month for them. Hanai, so I want you to just catch the picture. Around somewhere between November and December, Hanai comes and it says from Judah with some other men. I questioned him about the Jewish remnant and that survived the exile. When was the exile? '70. Those who survived the exile were back in the province and are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, its gates have been burnt with fire. When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. O Lord, let your ear be attentive to the miles away. Houses and issues cause people not to have homes. The same thing happens. So Nehemiah says, what's going on with Jerusalem? They said it's nowhere like how it was during the time of Solomon. It's terrible. He prays, God, I'm about to go in front of the king. I'm going to ask him for permission and finances to rebuild Jerusalem. If we were doing modern day Judaism, in Pittsburgh, stay with me, I want to make sure y'all catch this. Who would we be going to ask? Who would I have to? I'm praying to God that whose heart will be open so I can rebuild the Homewood Coliseum. Excellent. I got a meeting with Corey. I got a meeting with the head of the URA. I got a meeting with the head of zoning and everything else. I'm asking for favors. I want to ask for $20 million to rebuild the Coliseum and the place next to it and things like that. It's the same mindset. The king has money. He has power and authority. He's going to him and asking for that. See, this is a power of prayer. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think that, what, he asked first, or did the king ask him why is his face downcast?
Excellent. What you tell me? What chapter did we just read?
2.
Chapter 1. In chapter 2, he asked that.
Yeah.
You got to pick what's going on. He's literally asking God to touch the heart of the king before I go there. See,
God touched the heart again.
watch this. See, we do that a lot. We about to get something. The difference is when you're asking God to touch the heart of something, what did you ask him to touch the heart for?
Favor.
For what though? For what?
For others, not just for yourself.
But most of the time, who's it for?
The people.
Nah, for yourself. It's usually, God, I'm asking this. I want to get this loan approved. God, I'm trying to get this situation in my life done. God, I'm asking for favor. I'm not saying it's a sinful prayer, but when you see Bible, Nehemiah, you got to catch what Nehemiah is doing. Nehemiah is living large. He's a cupbearer. He's with the king. You know, if you know anything about the king Artaxerxes, what he did was he had a summer house and a winter house. And Nehemiah would travel with him on both times. So that meant that he would be with the king from April to October in Pittsburgh. And then the king would go to Miami for the winter. Does that make sense? I need you to peep. Nehemiah is okay. It's his people in Jerusalem that are suffering. So when he prays, he's not praying for himself. That would be me saying, I live large. Me and Camille, we're in Churchill, bam, bam, bam. We just celebrated paying off our mortgage. Things are well with us. I'm going to Corey for money for Larmer. I'm saying, God, I ain't getting a nickel out of this. Destiny don't get a nickel. We don't get anything. I'm asking that you would give us the money to rebuild Larmer. Does that make sense? That's how God answers prayers. Nehemiah's like, I ain't got no skin in this game financially. I'm going to stay working with thingy. I just want Jerusalem to be rebuilt. I want my people to be okay. I got a great government job. Does that make sense? So that prayer is a much more powerful prayer. He's asking God touch the heart of the king so we can rebuild your holy city so that your people can then start doing all of the things. So when you go to chapter 2,
Makes sense to me.
does it make sense? Who are your prayers helping? So Rhonda, you're 1000% correct. By the time he gets to the king, God has already made his heart ready for Nehemiah, and he doesn't even know why. Look at chapter 2. Chapter 2. Remember, Kislev was November, December. I think this is important. Chapter 2, in the month of Nisan. Does anybody know the month of Nisan?
November?
No, that's Kislev.
Oh, okay.
Nisan, as your Bible say it?
Fall. It's like
April.
Excellent. Month of Nisan. It's the most powerful month for Jews and for us. What happens in our month of Nisan? There you go. What happens in their month of Nisan? Passover. Our Easter is their Passover. It's the Passover lamb. And so the month of Nisan, so you got to catch what's happening. He didn't pray. Y'all ain't catching this. He didn't hear about the state of Jerusalem on a Monday, prayed, and then went into the king's presence on a Tuesday. He heard about the state of Jerusalem in November.
right.
He didn't go into the presence of the king until April. So that praying and fasting, that was from Kislev all the way to Nisan. That was from November. Y'all ain't catch that. He was pounding heaven with prayer to soften the king's heart 4 months before he goes in his presence. It says in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of the king, Artaxerxes, this is very important. History lets us know that King Artaxerxes became king in 465. Jeff, you're a math wizard. If it's the 20th year of his reign, what's the year? 445. Because you go down. If it's AD, if it's 2026 now, and we're talking about in the 20th reign of this person, he's been a senator for 20 years. When did he become senator?
You said it's what?
It's 2026 now, and we say, in the 20th year of Senator so-and-so's reign. When did he become? In 2006, because we go up.
Why did they count down? What's that about?
Jesus.
Yeah, before Christ.
Before Christ. That's what BC. Yeah, so the calendar, everything changes around the birth of Christ. Yeah, so that's how they had just numbers, and they said, well, how are we going to figure this out? The Romans didn't necessarily give it to Christ. When they started counting, it was around the birth of Christ. And they said, okay, and we know we just take everything that existed and we give it a BC, before Christ. Some people Christians say before Christ. What do atheists say? Or agnostic? BCE, before the common era. But then AD is what? After
Christ's death.
After unsaved folks or secular people is going to say ACE, after the common era. You and I say before Christ, and Ona Domini, the year of our Lord. So now we add up. Does that make sense? Cool. So very important. In the year of 445, when wine was brought to him, I took the wine and gave it to the king. I had not been saying this presence before. So the king asked me, as Ron had talked about, why does your face look so sad when you are not ill? You got to understand something. How were you supposed to show your face in the presence of the king? At all times. I don't care if your mama, daddy, brother, and sister just got slaughtered. You show up with a smile on your face. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you something about different races, different people of power. How was a slave that worked in the house supposed to show up
Not all the time.
at all the time? What happened if the lady's husband had just got sold? How is she supposed to show up? What happens if the son just got killed for running away? How are they put? At all times, you do not show up in the presence of the master with a frown on your face. At all. Think about that. So the king is like, first of all, I could have you killed for this. Right. Something ain't right here. But he's prayed for 4 months that God would touch his heart. So it says, I was very much afraid. Why? Because you ain't supposed to go there with no smile, with no frown on your face. But I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my fathers are buried lies in ruins and the gates have been destroyed with fire? Who destroyed that city?
He did. No,
Nebuchadnezzar.
Good job. Nebuchadnezzar had destroyed it about 100 years earlier, and it still stayed messed up. Who destroyed our cities in the 68 riots? We did. So, and they still stayed messed up. You got to understand that. Just think about Iran right now. Trump has destroyed certain places. It could be 30 years from now and be like, man, who did that? Trump. And then they could say, well, who did that? Netanyahu or Israel. So you understand that mindset. Just like Israel has destroyed parts of Palestine, America has destroyed parts of Iran, Babylon, the Babylonians destroyed parts of Canaan. And so he says, why shouldn't I be sad? Now, this is deep. His city had been looking like that for 90 years. But he just got sad about it when he found out, which shows a level of what?
No, what's wrong?
Think about it. He just got sad.
Compassion.
Yes, but think about it. I just said it. He just got sad.
Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. He didn't even know.
Oh.
He ain't been there for a while. You understand? That's like moving away from Pittsburgh. And you ain't got no TV. You don't even know the hill ain't never got rebuilt. He's like, man, I left in 68. It still looked the same. Like, bro, it looks the same. Like, I never knew that because, again, we have TV. He had no idea when his brothers told him in 445 BC that it still looks like how it looked when Nebuchadnezzar came. He was like, for real? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in my Bible, it says third return he returned 3 times to Jerusalem in 445.
Who?
Jeremiah.
After he gets permission.
Oh yeah, that was his third time returning. Didn't he rebuild?
No, he didn't even know his brothers came and told him. So he had no idea. He asked, what's the condition?
Oh, okay.
If he had been there, he would have known the condition. So he had no idea. When his brothers come to him, they tell him that it's messed up.
It's like somebody said, man, I ain't been home in a while, man. How the hood look?
There you go. And if you ain't watching on TV, you have no idea. You'd be like, man, think about you left in the 70s. And I tell you that the skating rink ain't open anymore because he didn't know. So he didn't know. They told him about it. His heart got pricked with compassion. He prayed to God for 5 months, confessed the sins of his people and himself, asked God to touch the heart of King Artaxerxes, and he goes in front of the king. And he says, if it pleases the king, verse 5, if your servant has found favor. When did watch this? He said, if your servant has found favor. Right. He prayed for the favor. Right. 4 months earlier, I asked that I would find favor, that the king would say yes to my request. Then the king with the queen sitting beside him asked, how long will your journey take? When will you get back? It pleased the king to send me, so I set a time. Go to the end of verse 8. And because the gracious hand of God was upon me, the king granted my request. Most theologians actually give a date to this. March 14th.
Yeah, because it says, so I set a time.
445 BC.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah.
March 14th, 445 BC. This is when the 7 Right, please. Build it to go the money you need to rebuild everything you need. It was deep. No, are we Ezra 1:1? Now stay with me here. We're going to these. I know we got a lot of numbers up here, but you guys can handle it. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the date is 538 BC. Very important. Where's that number over here? You remember I said they got freed? So in 538 BC, remember how the north in the north and the south fought? In 538 BC, Cyrus was king of Persia. He hooked up with a king named Darius, king of Media. Them two came together and attacked Babylon and won. And when they defeated Babylon, they said, listen, we don't even need you guys as slaves. You're free. And they began to leave from 536 to 534. This is so powerful. When they went into slavery at 606 BC, Jeremiah, and we'll get to that real quick, Jeremiah told them, listen, I don't care what other people are telling you, you're going to be slaves for 70 years. Submit to the Babylonians so you can have peace. What's 606 minus 70? And that's exactly how long they were slaves. And in 536, Darius the Mede and Cyrus, they get there found 538. 2 years later, they're battling. By 536, they've totally won and they freed everybody. They freed the slaves at the same year that God told Jeremiah they'll be freed 70 years earlier. Think about the prophecy of that. And when Jeremiah got that word, it was like 100 and something years. So let's go there real quick. In the first year of Cyrus, the first year of him reigning over Babylon, king of Persia, in order to fulfill what the Lord has spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus. He's already moved the heart of King Artaxerxes. He's moving the heart of Cyrus to make a proclamation. Now, what do you think another word for proclamation would be? It's up there. A decree, to make a law, a decree, a proclamation, to do what? And put it in writing. This is what the Cyrus, king of Persia, says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, has appointed me to build a temple. Who destroyed the temple? Exile. You guys are doing, man, you're doing great. He destroyed, who built the temple? Solomon built the temple in the 9th century. It was up and running for about 300 years. They send the worship in other places. God raises up Nebuchadnezzar. He goes in, destroys the temple, destroys Jerusalem. Then God tells Jeremiah that this is going to occur. And then in 538 BC, Cyrus comes in, wins. And then this is what he does. It says, any one of his people, verse 3, may his God be with him, and let him go to Jerusalem and Judah and build the temple of the Lord, the God of Israel, and the God who's in Jerusalem. And the people of any place where survivors may now be living, or to provide them with silver and gold. That was like the freedmen's burial that Lincoln wanted to do with free will offerings. Then they left. So watch the beauty of this. Solomon builds it. They keep on sinning. What type of prophets were sent to stop them from going into exile? Good job. Speak up louder. Pre-exilic. I'm sending you prophets to tell you guys you're about to go to exile. You're about to go to slavery. You're about to go to jail. Why? Because you're committing adultery, all of these things. You're not taking care of the poor and stuff like that. They say, so what? We don't believe you. Jeremiah gets thrown in jail. Everybody else gets thrown in jail. God raises up Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar destroys it. Then they go to jail for 70 years. After 70 years, God raised up Cyrus and Darius. They come and destroy Babylon and then free. So when it says a decree, one decree allowed them to start building, but they were only about 90% complete. If a job is 90% complete, is it complete?
No.
If it's 95% complete, is it complete? If the temple has everything but the Holy of Holies, is it complete? If the temple has the Holy of Holies, the altar of incense, the showbread, but out the ark, is it complete? So it wasn't complete. So check out how the decrees work. Ezra does one decree and 90% is complete. And then obstacles occur. And you can see it in Homewood where they started something and it never got finished.
Football field.
Is it not? It's complete now.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It ain't complete.
They're like 70 yet.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that. I thought when they dedicated, my man, thank you for that. Well, thank you then. But that's a perfect example. Homewood football field. And think about it. For years, it was nothing. Then it became 70% complete. All right, that's Ezra. Now, King Artaxerxes and Nehemiah now get permission to finish the project. Thank you, James. 100%. Those are the decrees. Now, how is this thing starting to add up? I'm almost done. Go to Jeremiah 29:1. And then I think we're going to catch this. Look at all of these. I love this, catching these things. Jeremiah, see, that's what I mean about prophecy. People use this all the time. For I know the plans I have for you. This was a specific time-centered frame prophecy. Jeremiah 29:1. This is the text of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the surviving elders amongst the exiles and to the priests. That means Jeremiah was not a what? Good job, Ron. He wasn't a slave. He's still in Jerusalem. They didn't take everybody from Africa. Folks were still in Africa. They could have sent us a letter. They took, 20% of Africa. They did not go and take the whole continent of Africa and bring them to America. They took 10% of Africa, brought them to America. Nebuchadnezzar went to Jerusalem, took 20% of them and brought them. Jeremiah was one of the ones he did not take. So Jeremiah's in Jerusalem, writes a letter to Babylon. You ever been incarcerated? When you get a letter, everybody, when you in jail, you look forward to a letter. And so a letter is something to do. He writes a letter. Now look what the letter says. To the elders, to the leaders. Look where the letters go to. The elders, the priests, the prophets, and all the people in Nebuchadnezzar carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Verse 3, he entrusted the letter to Eliash, son of so-and-so. Verse 4, this is what the Lord God Almighty says to all those carried into exile. Watch. False prophets were telling them this ain't going to last long. False prophets was telling him God's grace and mercy is too much. We'll be out of here. Look, about 20 more minutes, we're out of here. 2 years, we're out of here. So they were basically being rebellious and everything else. Look what God tells them. Build houses and settle down. You're going to be in this for a while. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your son. Give your daughters in marriage. Increase in number. Seek peace and prosperity of the city. What's the name of the city? Babylon. Excellent. See, listen, it's like saying you're at the Western. You're at SCI Gradford. You're at Pelican Bay. You're in jail. Hey, you're going to be there for a while. You got close to it. You got 70 years, homie. Settle down, clean your cell up, make it your home, seek peace because you don't want no riots going on. You don't want no people flooding the toilets. This is where you're going to be. You're going to be on J Block for 70 years. When you go out to the yard, man, you might as well keep that yard nice and clean out there because you're going to be here for a while. Seek peace and prosperity of the city, which I've carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it. Because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Pray for the penitentiary to do well. Pray that it gets air conditioning, because if they get air conditioning, you got air conditioning. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Do not let the prophets and diviners amongst you deceive you. Do not listen to the dreams and encourage them to have. What do you think they were telling them? But what specifically what?
You're gonna be out of here soon.
You're gonna be out of here soon. We're gonna listen, man. God gonna get that thing. My lawyer said he's gonna get us out of here, man. We make that a year to do. We out of here. Listen, do not listen to them. They're prophesying lies. Look at this. This is what the Lord says. When how many years? Verse 10. There it is. 50606 the fact. This is historical dates. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my gracious promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. Then you will call upon me, come and pray to me, which you weren't doing. That's why you're in Babylon now, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me, declares the Lord. I will gather you and all these other things. So now let's go back to Daniel 9:24. I'm going to break it down. Somebody say, break it down. Watch it now. So from March 14th, 445 BC to April 6, 32 AD is when Christ was crucified. It's 483 years. Mike, use your calculator. I'm going to get even deeper. Use your calculator. I think it's like 483 times 360 to the day.
Times 360?
Times 360. 173,880 days. Now watch, let's break it down. See if it helps. So all of these things, the decree of Ezra started them rebuilding it. The decree of King Artaxerxes, they completed it. Nehemiah went and put the wall together in 52 days. By the time Nehemiah got done, Jerusalem was 100%. The field is only, 70%, coach? Jerusalem was 100% completed. And from that period, from the issuing of the decree to this, now let me break it down for you. If you got notes, write these down. I'm going to give you all the answers. Y'all ready? And we're done. 77s put 490 years. Yeah, well, so you can now where you can put right in your mind, you'll know. So Daniel 9:24. I'm giving you 77s. That's 490 years. Or decreed, put a law made for your people, Israelites, and your holy city, Jerusalem. Now watch. This has not occurred yet. To finish transgression is still occurring. To put an end to sin is still occurring. To atone for wickedness is still occurring. To bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to the anointed most holy, put in parentheses, millennial kingdom till eternity. And I'll explain that. So he goes on to say, know and understand this. From the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, here is your date, March. For New Granada, like, yeah, they like the old Granada. That's what they would be saying, like, not that ain't you take some old heads from the hill and you get a new Crawford grill. Man, ain't the old Crawford grill had Billie Holiday. So that was their mindset, like, man, we got a Crawford grill, everybody happy. But are still waiting for another temple. So let me go. It says, no one understand from the issuing of the decree by King Artaxerxes and then Cyrus earlier, till the anointed one, Jesus, the ruler comes. And this is beautiful. Put this down because it deals with what we're going to deal with on Sunday. Palm Sunday. That's when he comes. So it says when he comes. But then it goes on. So that's in Palm Sunday. And then what happens 5 days later? Thank you. There will be, so watch this. When the anointed one, Jesus, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens, 49 years, and 62 sevens, 434 years. Jerusalem, will be rebuilt. Now we got to remember that Daniel was saying this around 630 something, 640 something. The stuff hasn't even occurred yet. It's rebuilt around 445. So 100 something years after Daniel says that, it will be rebuilt. So after 627s, the anointed one will be, watch this, will be with streets with the trench, but in times of trouble. After 62-7, 434 years, the anointed one, Jesus, will be cut off. What do you think cut off means? Crucified. And that is the date that most, we're not sure positively, but like 95% of most theologians will give you this date. There's another one they play around with. It's like around 31, but most of them is somewhere around here, that date. And so, and that's deep because how long have we been saying 2,000 years ago Jesus was crucified? People say, we've been saying that for a long time, 2,000 years. Specifically, when will it be 2,000 years if we go by that date there? In 2032. So technically, it's been like 1,994 years ago, but we've been rounding up for two. They've been saying 2,000 since the 1800s, 2,000 years ago, Christ. No, it was about, we have to have a date. If it's 30 something, the earliest I've ever seen is 30 AD. The latest is 33. So it couldn't have been 2,000 years forever, but somewhere around there. He will have nothing. The people of the ruler, the Romans, will come and destroy the city, Jerusalem. This actually happened in 70 AD. Do you remember when Jesus was sitting with his disciples and they pointed how beautiful Herod's temple was? And what does he say?
It'll be destroyed in 3
It'll be
days.
rubble.
He said, listen, there won't be a piece of gold left. And matter of fact, let me get the exact scripture. Let me see. That's in Matthew. Somebody turn it. Do you see all these things? I tell you the truth. Not one stone will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. That actually occurred in 70 AD. Nero, who's head of Rome, gets upset with the Jews and literally goes and attacks the entire city, burns down Jerusalem again. What was the only thing left to this day of Jerusalem during the time of Jesus? The Western Wall. That's it. That's why you'll see Jews to this day. That's all they have left. The temple's gone. The wall is gone. I mean, Jerusalem, the city has been rebuilt, but none of the original stuff that you would need to sacrifice, art, stuff like that. Verse 27. Now here it is. We're almost done. I'll pick up a little bit next week. He is the Antichrist. Because how many years have been used so far? 483. How many is the prophecy? Excellent. So how many years is missing? Where's these 7 years at? Come on, you got it.
Towards the end of Revelation.
Think about it. These 483 have already occurred from March 14th, but God says we need 490. So 7 years have been floating.
The time and a half. That's 7 years.
No, time and a time and a half.
Time.
No, I think is that time and a half? I think that's
That's the 3.5 years, right?
yeah, time, yeah.
But it's the 3.5 years of peace and then the 3.5.
Right. A time is 3 years, time and a half a time. Right. So remember, there's three different sevens. 77s, which is 70 times 7, 490. That's what he says. We need all 490. 7 sevens and 62 sevens have already occurred. That's where it goes on. Look what it goes on to say. It says, look at it again. Help you out. It says, what is it, 26? After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be cut off and will have nothing, Jesus Christ. The people of the ruler, the Romans, will come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. Happened in 70 AD. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end. That's later, and the desolation will be decreed. This is yet to occur. He, the Antichrist, will confirm a covenant with many for how long? 1-7. It's the 1-7 that we've been looking for. That one, yep, he will make a covenant with many for 1-7. In the middle of the 7, what's the middle of 7? So what's the first 3.5 years known as?
Peace.
Excellent. What's the last 3.5 years? Excellent. So the first 3.5 years, we're gone. There's peace on earth. The temple's rebuilt. The Jews can sacrifice. The Muslims will keep Jew. Iran ain't messing around with Israel. Pakistan is cool. The Hamas is cool. I mean, it's beautiful that's happening. And then look what happens. It says, in the middle of the 7, after 3.5 years, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. He will set up an abomination that causes desolation. He will go into say this is the temple. This is the holy place. He will go into the temple and set up a golden image of him. And imagine that's somebody coming into the church. And say that you at the church, like a Catholic church or Mount Airy, they got the black Jesus and everything else and a cross. And then the guy comes in and puts a statue of him and says, bow down to me. And so the Jews are totally messed up at that point. And it says, until the end is decreed and poured out upon them. So last one and we're done. Literally what happens? Daniel gets a revelation basically of the end of the world. And he gets some specific things that's going to occur. God tells Daniel 100 and something years before this, because you got to remember, when God tells Daniel, Jerusalem has already been destroyed. The temple has already been destroyed. Daniel is in Babylon knowing, because he was snatched up. He used to be living large in Jerusalem. He knows that the city is destroyed. And then God says to him, listen, from the issuing of the decree that's going to rebuild the city and the temple that's been destroyed, know this: 7 sevens and 62 sevens have to occur. In 483 years, the anointed one is going to show up, claim to be the anointed one, and then be crucified after that. Then we'll go on, which we've been going on the last 2,000 years. This 1-7 will occur. And this 1-7 will occur when the Antichrist comes on the scene, makes a covenant for 1-7, 7-year period. In the middle of that 7-year period, he breaks the covenant, and then you have the Great Tribulation. What happens after the Great Tribulation? Excellent. Where's Satan at the middle during the millennial kingdom?
Oh, sorry. Be a bit. I gotta stop calling.
Excellent. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to stay with you for a minute, Minister Mike. Right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank sin?
Probably an 8.
Ooh. I give sin a 10 right now. Sin worldwide.
You don't think it's a good word?
No, right now on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think sin ranks? 10. It's still out there. If you gave 10 a ranking, oh, sin, how well is sin doing in the world? How well is Satan doing in the world right now on a scale of 1 to 10? 10. How well will Satan be doing during the millennial kingdom?
Terrible. 2. Zero. Well, he's in jail, but then he'd get out.
Right, but during the millennial kingdom.
Everything's good.
Excellent. Catch. I need y'all to catch. Remember, it says it takes these 490 years to put an end to sin. And all of these things. So during the millennial kingdom, Satan is in prison. There is no Satan on earth. Sin is like, if you think of sin, you look at that person, like that female. What's that female? She's a dime. So right now, sin is a dime. Sin on a scale of 1 to 10 is doing its job. It's killing it right now. When you think about worldwide, everything that we're dealing with negative is due to sin. Let me tell you, I need you to understand this. Everything that's negative is dealing with sin. Hurricanes. Do you think there was hurricanes in the Garden of Eden?
No.
Do you think there'll be hurricanes during the millennial kingdom? Even hurricanes are the result of a fallen world. So when we turn this on now and you see what's happening in Iran, so if sin is a person, she's a dime. When that dime was thrown into the abyss, then sin as an entity doesn't exist. So that's the 490 years that occurs. So for 1,000 years, sin is going to be like a 0 to a 1. Satan gets released, is able to tap into some people, and then it's sin for another season, and then we go into eternity. So does that make sense? So what Daniel saw was Christ coming. What Daniel saw was Jerusalem being rebuilt, which it was, the temple being rebuilt, which it was, the temple in Jerusalem destroyed later on, which it was, Christ coming on the scene as the anointed one, which he was, Christ being cut off and crucified, which he was. All of that this 483 has already been fulfilled. But this last 7 has yet to be fulfilled. And it gets fulfilled after we get raptured and the Antichrist comes on the scene and he makes a covenant for 1/7. So that last prophetic 7 years is still dangling somewhere up in the universe and will be dropped down to earth. And by the time it's all said and done, we'll be able to say, wow, everything that Daniel said about the state of the world occurred. Any questions? Yes, sir.
You said that the Antichrist will come on the scene. Jesus said the gospel is that even now that the Antichrist is, on the scene.
Excellent. There's many antichrists. And if you ever notice, even your editors do a great job. It's lower A. Lower A. And so, yes, there are people that have already come on the scene. And right. And you think about, listen. China, official religion is what?
Nationalism.
No.
Communism.
No, that's the political.
I thought it was Judaism.
They don't have one. It's atheism.
They don't believe in nothing.
No, they deny. Agnostics is like, I'm not sure. They deny. So you already have countries that literally deny. Watch this. Then you have, think about this. Watch this. Jews deny Christ. They're antichrist. Orthodox Jew denies Christ as Messiah. Ask an Orthodox Jew, did Jesus Christ exist as their Messiah? And if they say no, they're against them. So he said, we got many, he called them. You think about it. In Revelation, he said, you belong to the synagogue of Satan. So there are many antichrists. People have come on the scene literally coming against. Nero was an antichrist. Hitler was an antichrist. Stalin was an antichrist. Joseph Stalin, all of Russia. You got countries, literally, that communism is their political identity. Atheism is the religious identity. And that's why you can be killed for practicing a religion that they consider does not even exist. So excellent question, though, Elder Sean. So yes, he'll say you're going to have many, but most of the time it's always small. When you get to Revelation, it's going to be capital A because one. So it's like he said you have antichrist, plural. But then you get this antichrist is going to be at a whole nother level. And let me ask you guys, do you know the difference between antichrist? I don't care if it's Hitler, Stalin, totally against Christ, and the antichrist. What's inside of the small a's that's not inside? I mean, what's inside the capital A antichrist? Satan himself has come inside of him. These other antichrists, demonic angels, have influenced them to say Jesus does not exist. Bam, 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 come against Jesus, kill Christians, all of that. Those are high-ranking angels. Satan himself says, no, I'm going to possess this guy. And when I possess him, God allows him to use some of his demonic, miraculous abilities to do some crazy things. Excellent job, guys. Wow. You feel good on this one? Yes, ma'am. You good? Okay. All right, cool. That's a lot. So what I'm going to do next week, I'm going to lead us up here. And we'll just go over one more time because I know that's a lot, but I think to get the understanding a lot of these numbers and stuff like that, we'll go over one more time on that and then move forward. Cool? Father, in the name of Jesus, I know it's a lot, but I thank you for a group of people that desire to a lot of meat. Now give them the time to digest it, Father. Looking forward to this Sunday, the day your son revealed himself as King and Messiah of Israel. Looking forward to Palm Sunday. Looking forward to the next Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, Lord God, that gave him all power and authority and gives us an amount of power and authority in our lives. Now, Father, we take up an offering, a gift, a thank you to you, thanking you for the ability to give, thanking you for Destiny Dream Center and all of the services that we provide.